Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us for your daily news update. I'm Sarah Jacobs. Here are the headlines today. India celebrates its 73rd Republic Day with the iconic parade at Delhi's Rajpath. A cockpit view of the grand flypast marks the high point of the parade. In a parade of many firsts, India's first woman Rafale pilot features in the Republic Day Air Force tableau. On Republic Day, let's remember our soldiers defending the line of control. A special report from the Kiran sector of Jammu and Kashmir. The Padma Award for Congress leader Ghulam Nabi Azad again brings the split in the grand old party to the fore. Some Congress leaders congratulate, some say he should return it. The party high command maintains silence. Former Bengal Chief Minister Buddhadev Bhattacharjee and two eminent artists from the state, tabla maestro Pandit Anindya Chatterjee and eminent vocalist Sandhya Mukhopadhyay, say no thanks to the Padma Awards. Processing railway job aspirants torch a parked train and stone a running train in Gaya. The railway suspends its NTPC and Level 1 exams after violent protests. A special report from the last constituency in Uttar Pradesh, about to be submerged as a 3-decade-old irrigation project finally comes to life. This will be the last vote villagers here cast from what they call home in this election, and there's anger on the ground. It's going to be a high-profile contest with Navjot Singh Sidhu taking on the Akali Dal's Bikram Manjitia in Punjab's Amritsar East seat. And Virat, the elite horse of the President's Guard, retires, gets pat from the President and the Prime Minister.
Horse, steed,
India celebrated its 73rd Republic Day with the iconic parade at Delhi's Rajpath, showcasing our military prowess and cultural pageantry. Strict COVID protocols were in place and only 5,000 people were allowed to attend the celebrations at the Rajpath. Only doubly vaccinated adults and single-dose vaccinated children of the age of 15 and above were allowed. A flypast by 75 aircraft and helicopters was the highlight of this year's parade, a parade which saw many firsts.
Indian Air Force transforming for the future.
Flight Lieutenant Shivangi Singh, India's first woman Rafale pilot, a part of the Republic Day parade this morning. Overhead, the Indian Air Force flew 75 aircraft, including its latest Rafales and Chinook helicopters. And for the first time, in-flight cockpit video of the flypast, albeit recorded footage. Sadly, a low cloud base meant that the grand finale, a 17 Jaguar aircraft formation in the shape of 75, was not visible from the ground at Rajpath. But on the ground, other than the usual marching contingents, the Indian Army's new combat uniform was showcased, worn by paratroopers as they made their way down the central vista. Among the most colourful performances, the CRPF singing their theme song. But in the midst of it all, it is election season after all, and the Prime Minister's attire made headlines, with the Uttarakhand Chief Minister pointing out that Mr. Modi was wearing a cap from Uttarakhand, along with the Brahmkamal, the state flower of Uttarakhand. He was also reported to be draped in a stole from Manipur. And then this final goodbye to Virat, the bold charger from the President's bodyguard, who's been a feature at 10 Republic Day parades. This will be his last. Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Of the President's bodyguard.
And on Republic Day, as most of us probably spent a relaxed day at home with our families, we pay homage to our soldiers defending the line of control, showing unflinching resolve to protect India in sub-zero temperatures. Here's a special report from the Kiran sector of Jammu and Kashmir.
Drones and snow scooters. A key part of the equipment used by the army as part of its counter-infiltration grid along the line of control with Pakistan. This is the Kiran sector. In posts here, there is heavy snowfall this time of the year. But soldiers need to remain alert, since attempts to cross over cannot be ruled out even in winter.
Weather is the biggest impediment for troops manning the line of control. During the night, minimum temperature falls several degrees below freezing point. And during day, when sun comes out, there's fear of avalanche.
Alongside the quick reaction teams patrolling the snowy peaks are avalanche rescue teams to deal with any eventuality during freak weather conditions.
24 घंटा के लिए हमारा बर्फबारी हो, ठंड हो, बारिश हो, हमारा पेट्रोलिंग हर हमेशा चलते रहता है. हमारे लिए कोई मुश्किल नहीं है क्योंकि हमने इसका ट्रेनिंग पाया गया है, तो इसीलिए हमको मुश्किल थोड़ा कम लगता है.
As part of counter-infiltration mechanism, technology is playing a key role.
Drones are constantly deployed for surveillance over the mountain ranges here. A huge benefit in covering areas where soldiers cannot access quickly.
सर्विलेंस डे हो या नाइट, दोनों सर्विलेंस डे नाइट दोनों में यूज करते हैं. और ये बहुत कारगर साबित होता है. जहां हमारे जवान मुश्किल टेरेन में पहुंचना मुश्किल होता है, उससे हम उस इलाके में इससे डोमिनेट कर सकते हैं.
आगे के एरिया में कोई जवान फंसा हुआ है, उसको मेडिकल सपोर्ट चाहिए इमीडिएटली, तो हम इसको वहाँ पे भेज के और मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट कुछ भी जो भी चाहिए, मेडिसिन वगैरह हम उसको प्रोवाइड करा सकते.
The guns have fallen silent along the line of control for the last 11 months after India and Pakistan renewed the 2003 ceasefire agreement. But for the troops posted along the line of control, lowering their guard is just not an option. There have been consistent attempts to smuggle weapons and drugs from across the border.
Army says there's improvement in situation along the LOC after ceasefire with Pakistan in February last year. There's also considerable decrease in the infiltration. But in the wake of intelligence reports that militant launch pads across the LOC are still active, Army has asked its troops to remain alert. In Karen LOC, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
But the day was not without controversy. Ghulam Nabi Azad was the lone Congress leader to be awarded a Padma Award under the Modi dispensation this year. And this move has once again spotlighted the sharp divide within the party, with leaders of the G23, or that group of 23 quote-unquote rebels, and Gandhi family supporters sparring openly. Former Union Minister Anand Sharma wished Ghulam Nabi Azad for being awarded the country's third highest honour, calling it a well-deserved recognition of his lifelong enriching contribution to public service and parliamentary democracy. His colleague Kapil Sibal was more direct, saying it's ironic that the Congress doesn't need his services when the nation recognises his contribution to public life. However, the Congress veteran Jairam Ramesh aimed at his colleague, saying returning the award would have been the right thing to do, using the phrase Ghulam, not Azad, or meaning enslaved, not free. Mr. Azad, Mr. Sibal and Mr. Sharma are a part of the Congress G23, a group that wrote to Sonia Gandhi in 2020 complaining about a leadership drift and calling for big reforms in the organization.
राजनीतिक दलों को बिना देखकर कौन हमारे विरोध में है, कौन हमारे साथ है, उनके भी सम्मानित लोगों को माना जाना है, उनको पुरस्कार किया जा रहा है. और कांग्रेस पार्टी अगर पद्मा पुरस्कार को इस रूप से देखती है कि गुलामी का प्रतीक है, तो इंदिरा जी, राजीव जी और नेहरू जी को क्या भारत रत्न मिला नहीं? तो क्या ये सब गुलामी के प्रतीक है?
उम्मीद है कि प्रधानमंत्री ने एक क्राइटेरिया बनाया पद्म भूषण का, और वो क्राइटेरिया, वो स्टैंडर्ड गुलाम नबी आज़ाद है. इस स्टैंडर्ड के मुताबिक मुझे पूरा भरोसा है कि अगर ईमानदारी के साथ पद्म भूषण भविष्य में दिया जाएगा तो कांग्रेस पार्टी के कम से कम 100 लोगों को पद्म भूषण दिया जा सकता है इस क्राइटेरिया पे.
And Sunil Prabhu now joins us. Sunil, what is the Congress party's official stand on this? Do they believe that the award should be returned? And secondly, this award also reignites that speculation that Mr. Azad is considering cutting ties with the Congress.
Well, to answer the first one, the official version is no comments. But you have seen the war of words and the exchange that has taken place. No doubt, I don't think anybody within the party wants to get into, this, public spat as we've seen publicly, though they feel what Mr. Jairam Ramesh did was really a little bit tongue-in-cheek, which could have been easily avoided. Nevertheless, everybody has good wishes for Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, but definitely this has reignited, especially in the backdrop of some senior leaders of the party leaving and joining the BJP, even though they say it's a clash of ideologies. They have been quite determined, saying that all Rahul Gandhi's Doon school boys and people who backed him, whom he backed during the UPA regime, have now deserted him. And people, the old guard, in particular the G23, as has been pointed out, have really stood by the party in terms of ideology and fighting the BJP-led NDA across the country. And they feel that they need to be counted, and it's a time within themselves to revolt against the leadership and to make it clear that they are not happy not only with Rahul Gandhi but also with Priyanka Gandhi Vadra for the various steps that they're taking of not taking the grassroots and being able to carry everybody along.
And as India celebrated Republic Day, a passenger train was set on fire. Another one was attacked with stones in Bihar in violent protests by students against a railway jobs exam. A heavy contingent of police failed to control the protesters who squatted on railway tracks, vandalized property, clashed with security forces and targeted several trains, severely affecting services. Visuals showed a train engulfed in flames while firemen valiantly tried to put it out. The government has now suspended the exam and set up a committee to tackle the grievances of the protesting students.
Burning trains, protest on tracks, lathi charge and tear gas shelling. For over 48 hours now, a raging battle is on between railway exam students and the government. The crisis showing no signs of ebbing. A conflict over a railway exam taking a violent turn, with some protesters burning a train coach in Gaya. Rail Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw now appealing to the students to not take law in their own hands.
एकदम सीरियसली आपके सारे पॉइंट्स को लेंगे। मेरा निवेदन है कि कोई भी छात्र कानून को हाथ में न ले।
Students who appeared for the Railway Board's NTPC 2021 examinations alleged that there were discrepancies in the results and therefore started their protests. These demonstrations later spread across several cities, including railway bogies being burnt in Gaya. The Railways is now on the back foot. The non-technical popular categories or the NTPC and Level 1 Group D examination has been suspended.
एक 5 सदस्यीय हाई पावर कमेटी का गठन किया है। अपने सुझाव जितने भी हमारे विद्यार्थी हैं वह 16 फरवरी 2022 तक दे सकते हैं। इसके लिए वे RRB committee@railnet.gov.in पे ईमेल कर सकते हैं। यह कमेटी 16 फरवरी 2022 के बाद छात्रों से प्राप्त सुझावों पर विचार करेगी और 4 मार्च 2022 तक अपना रिपोर्ट सबमिट कर देगी।
Close to 1.25 crore people applied for the level 6 of the NTPC of Railways and around 60 lakh people have appeared the exam. The examinees, however, alleged that the Railways' decision to hold the exams in 2 stages, claiming the second stage for the final selection amounted to cheating. There was only one examination mentioned in the RRB notification issued in 2019. Examinees say that the Railways' data on the number of candidates selected is in doubt. They allege that there are instances where the same candidate was selected in 2 or more places which came at the cost of someone else's rejection. As a result, the cutoff went up and even those who scored good marks could not make it to the computer-based Test 1 result. The fallout of these demonstrations was also seen across cities such as Patna, Nevada, Muzaffarpur, Sitamarhi, Buxar and Bhojpur districts. In Jehanabad town, angry students burned an effigy of the Prime Minister. Several trains were also seen cancelled or ran on alternative routes on Tuesday on account of these protests. The protests also raised the political temperature in Bihar and poll-bound Uttar Pradesh. Students want that the results be declared again, but the unfortunate fallout of this crisis are the violent protests across Bihar. But the question, an important and an unanswered one, is, was this completely unavoidable and where does the responsibility lie? With Manish Kumar in Patna, Parimal Kumar here in Delhi and Sanjay Kaushik, Shinakshi Chakrabarti for NDTV.
All right, let's take a look at India's numbers when it comes to the fight against the spread of the coronavirus. India has reported 2.85 lakh new cases, 665 deaths in the past 24 hours, falling below the 3 lakh mark for the second straight day. The positivity rate stands at 16.16. That's up by 0.64%. Delhi has reported 7,498 fresh COVID cases, 29 deaths in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate staying steady at 10.59. All right, let's get you a special election report as Uttar Pradesh prepares to vote for the all-important state election in less than 3 weeks. There's trepidation in the state's 403rd or the last constituency, Dudhi, in East UP's remote and underdeveloped Sonbhadra district, where a massive 3 decades-old irrigation dam project is finally nearing completion. This means that at least 11 villages will be fully or partially submerged. These villagers will now be voting for the last time from this location in this election, from where a place they call home. And there's anger over what villagers claim are unfulfilled promises by the government related to compensation. Alok Pandey and Prabhat Kumar report.
A ride into the sunset for 11 villages in Uttar Pradesh's 403rd and last assembly seat, Dudhi, part of East UP's remote Sonbhadra district. These villages will vote one last time from their current location in the state election. This massive 2,000 crore plus Kanhar irrigation dam project, in the works since 1976, will submerge these villages before the next 2024 Lok Sabha election. Dudhi is one of UP's 2 assembly seats reserved for scheduled tribes, and there are over 25,000 voters in these 11 villages.
इसमें बांध जो हमारा मिट्टी का बांध तो दोनों तरफ पूरा कंप्लीट हो गया है। 2023 बरसात से पहले ये पूरी तरह स्टोर करने की स्थिति में आ जाएगा।
The UP government says compensation and alternate land have been allotted as per norms. But in Dudhi, discontent lingers over how that process has been handled and just how much delay the project has faced. Phul Kunwar was just 26 when the foundation stone of the project was laid. The now senior citizen says she has lived with a sense of inevitability for 4 decades and more.
दिक्कत होत बा कि कन्हर बन्हात बा, कन्हर में तो भाई हमन डूबे करब, आ बन्हा जाए तो पानी आई तो हमन तो भागबे न करब। तो सरकार कहत रहे कि नहीं बहुत हम 3 पीढ़ी के देव, लेदरा पर के लड़का के देव, बाकी 3 पीढ़ी के का भी 2 पीढ़ी के नहीं देलक। तो हमन कैसे जियब, कैसे भागब हम? कोई हम लोग के नेता परता कोई हम लोग के साथ नहीं देता है, कोई कहा करेंगे का नहीं।
जितनी सूची में उल्लिखित है उन लोगों को जो है पैकेज दिया जा रहा है। इसके अलावा अगर किसी को कोई शिकायत है तो उसकी जांच करा करके जो है उसका जो है निस्तारण कर दिया जाएगा टीम के द्वारा।
Dudhi will vote in the last phase of the UP election and it currently has an MLA from a BJP ally, the Apna Dal S. While political parties have not declared their candidates yet, this current MLA claims that he has spoken to the government multiple times about enhanced compensation and also that a solution is in the works. But these assurances are not enough in Dudhi.
कोई विधायक न कोई सरकार आज तक नहीं सुना। भूमि अधिग्रहण कानून 1894 के तहत हम लोगों का अधिग्रहण हुआ है। नए कानून का कोई बातें नहीं लिया। इसलिए मेरा मांग है कि सभी को रोजगार की दृष्टि से नौकरी मिले, खेती का जमीन मिले और जो कंपनसेशन पैकेज दिए जा रहे हैं इसको डबल करके दिया जाए आज के महंगाई के हिसाब से। प्रलोभन में काफी दिन तक मतदान किए, लेकिन इस बार देखना है कि कौन हमारा बात सुनता है। जो सुनेगा उसी को मतदान करना है। और हम लोगों का ये मांग है कि जो भी विस्थापित यहाँ छूटे छटके हैं, जो पात्र लोग हैं, उनका नाम जोड़ा जाए।
In the 2017 election, the maximum nota votes in UP were recorded on the Dudhi assembly seat. As these villages wait for the inevitable, a rerun of that scenario may be entirely possible. With Prabhat Kumar in Sonbhadra and camera person Vineet Verma, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.